Another day, another chance, another way, another dance. Today I'll be talking to you all about something that I've been working on. So it's lesson six actually, and it's basically like server underscore HTML. So that's what it is, man. So I'm pretty much gonna be dealing with views and so on and so forth. So I'm be doing like a router.js. So what this does is it actually takes my code and actually sets it up in such a way that's much neater and puts it in the way that it needs to be put, and yeah, so on and so forth. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And my navigator is a person by the name of Tabo, so it's going to be helping me. Yeah, it's going to be helping me with my stuff. Shout, man. Hello, bro. So yeah, let's get into this, man. Let's get to this. All right, so let's rock and roll. So what now? So I'm pretty much writing better routes and serving external modules. Right, so that's what I'm pretty much doing. You know, so in lesson five, direct URL traffic, the routing system that matched request URLs to custom responses. In this lesson, you learn how to serve whole HTML files and assets such as client side, JavaScript, CSS, and images. So obviously, we're just saying goodbye to like plain text responses. At the end of the lesson, you improve your write code and place your logic in its own module for clean organization. So that's what you do, man. So the goal of building a three-page stack site using these HTML snippets can get cumbersome and clutter your main.js file. So build an HTML file that you'll use in future responses. This file lives within the same project directory as your server. See the project file structure in Figure 6.1 in this application structure. All content you want to show the user goes in the views folder, and all the code determining which content you show goes in the main.js file. So that's what happens, man. And then yeah. So obviously this is setup, main.js, package views index.html, and then obviously, yeah, that's what you have. So you got your public folder. So that's pretty much your test.css. That's your background color. Your public folder holds everything that you're gonna utilize. You know what I mean? That's pretty much gonna be utilized on like the front end, like your images, CSS, and your JavaScript or your test.js, your JavaScript. So that's what happens. So yeah, and then you also got your views, which is like index.html, right? So you got your views here. The doc type HTML declaration defines the document type and version of HTML being used. It tells the browser that this file is an HTML5 document. So obviously, like you've learned before in like your normal JavaScript, in order for you to pretty much get started in regards to like your HTML, you select for it, press shift, um, exclamation mark, enter, and then this is what's going to show you your doc type HTML, etc. So yeah, HTML head the head section contains meta information data about the document that isn't displayed directly on the web page. The meta char set tag specifies the character encoding for the HTML document. UTF-8 supports most characters and symbols from all languages, right? So meta char set equals UTF-8. The title tag defines the type of the web page. This text appears in the browser tab and when bookmarking the page. So you got your title here, your head, your body, and then which contains all the visible content that appears on the web page, like text, images, button links, and etc. Each one tag defines the top level heading, the most important heading on the page, and it's usually used for main titles or prominent text to welcome. Then the closing HTML tag marks the end of the HTML document. So then you got your main.js. It's pretty much everything that's gonna happen on your back end. Your server side. This is your server side. So this is JavaScript mixed in with like server with your server. So that's what it is. So main.js, so you got your port number, or actually let me actually like make use of you know my breaking points. Just my breaking points. So you can define the port number where the server will listen for incoming requests. Actually, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So yeah. So you define the port number where the server will listen for incoming requests. Import the built-in HTTP module used to create an HTTP server in Node.js. So that's what you do. Import the built-in HTTP module used to create an HTTP server in Node.js. Import the HTTP status codes. So do you think you'll be able to like discuss the code, just implement some pure programming?
Oh, no problem.
Thanks.
So, uh, yeah, line two, that's where we're defining our port number.
Yeah.
where the server will actually listen to the requests. Line 5, the const HTTP equals to require HTTP. So literally uh, that's an inbuilt module from Node.JS where we're gonna be using the HTTP module.
Yeah.
Then line 8 const HTTP status codes equals to require HTTP codes. So that's another module where will provide constants for the standard HTTP status code.
Yeah.
The 912 constant router equals to require uh, brackets router. Uh, when putting a custom uh, router module, so basically what we'll do is that okay, uh, we're gonna make another JavaScript file called router JS.
Yeah.
And what that will do is that it will handle all the routing. So basically, it will determine which response is sent to, especially when it comes to the request path.
Yeah.
Then the constant fs equals to require fs. So that what it will do is that it will import the file system module where it will read the files from the system. Then instant plain text uh, content type. So what we'll do is that we're presenting a plain text response header and the content type, right, which is text plain. So that will tell the browser to like add
Yeah.
what's this, it will be sending plain text data. Then the
Yeah.
constant HTTP content type, that what we'll do is that it will define an object representing HTML response headers. So what we'll do is that it will tell the browser that the server is sending HTML data.
From.
I don't know if you want to do the rest.
I'll do the rest. Wait, let me check the quality of my recording. Let me unshare a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I'll do the rest. So define. So obviously, I'll take over from like line 24. So define object representing HTML response headers, content type text HTML tells the browser the server sending an HTML data. So content HTML content type text.html, right? Tells the browser the server sending an HTML data. Then constant custom read file creates a helper function to read and send the file as a response along with these parameters. So the parameters, the file, the part of the file you want to read. Res, the HTTP response object, you send data back to the client. And then you read the specified file asynchronously. So asynchronous motion means that while something is loading, you're able to pretty much make use of another pretty much whilst your page is loading, you're able to like type in data, you know, to pretty much return like information. So you can so whilst it's loading, you can do something else while it's loading, like typing in So let's say, for example, while you typing in an email, you know, when you're looking for an email, then you typing an email. Once you're loading, you can still type, and the computer will asynchronously take in, the input from your keyboard. So that's what asynchronous is. And then you got your data or your data, and then this right defines this pretty much reads a specified file synchronously. It's an if statement if an error occurs while reading the file, log a message to the console, then send the file data as the HTTP response body. Then define a route for get request to the root URL router.get request dash res send an HTTP response header with 200 OK status and a plain text content type res dot write head HTTP status codes plain text content type. Send a plain text message back to the client and end the response. Whereas at end index plain text response for, then router define a router for get responses to index.html. Then send a head indicating an HTML content type and 200 OK status. You know what I mean? So that's what it does. Define a route for like post request to the route URL. And then yeah, that's what happens. Res right head HTTP status codes that plain text contents type result end posted plain dot text response for like post requests. HTTP creates server router dot handle listen 3000. Then contact log the server's listening on port number 3000. So that's what's happening. So that's pretty much like my code, man. Yeah. And also another aspect as well, you know, you got our package.json. So package.json, what that does is, it pretty much like saves your dependencies, like your development dependencies, your name, version, license, server underscore HTML, and so on and so forth. So that's what your package.json does, just saves the dependencies and who your author is. So to initiate that, what you do is you do npm init, and then what happens is you initially get in. I need to set my execution policy. You initially get in, you initialize, your package.json. You initialize your project. You initialize the dependencies for your project. So your package name, version, repository, repo, license, dev dependencies, is this okay? Yes, and so on and so forth. So as you can see here, what that'll do is you give you something called package.json. That's what it will give you. And then package-log.json. That will give you like your node modules for your HTTP status codes. That's the universal web code that you use, online. That right. So that's your HTTP status code is what you use. Then your node modules is pretty much like it's the biggest library in the world. The node biggest a web library in the world. You know what I mean? So it pretty much stores everything. So it's a library of all the stuff that you need, your license, your body, and so on and so forth. So you npi http status codes dash save dash development. And then also you do npm express. So npm I express So that's what happens. And then your router.js, right, imports the HTTP status codes module for use predefined contents for HTTP status codes. Example 200 for OK444 not found underscore ADC dot content HTTP status require HTTP status codes define object representing the HTTP header for HTML responses. So let me go over this code as well. You know, right? So okay, so constant HTTP status require. Move on to my next one. Define object representing the HTTP header for HTML responses. It tells the browser that the server will send HTML formatted data. Constant HTML content type equals content dash type text slanted HTML, and then define object that stores the available routes for the application. It organizes routes per HTTP methods get, post, etc. Each method holds key value pairs where the key is the URL path, e.g. dash, and then the value is the function that should run when that route is requested. So that's what happens. So you got your get, define a get route for the URL path, then set the response header to 200 OK with the content type of plain text. Raise or write head HTTP status dot content type text, then send a plain text message as the response body. Raise at end welcome to your info page. Uh, Repair an empty post object for post routes that will be added later dynamically, and then export a function named handle that will be used by the main server file. This function processes each incoming request and determines, which route to execute. So export.handle equals request.res equals or greater than, then try, check if your route exists for the request method, get a post, and then and the specific URL requested by the client. So you got the if else statement as well. If routes request that method request that URL, if a matching route exists, call the associated function. So routes request that method, request that URL request comma res, then else if no matching route is found, send a 44 not found error, then res that write head HTTP status not found HTML content type, respond with a simple HTML error message res that end, no such file exists. Then you got your catch X. If any unexpected error occurs while processing the request, log the error message to the console for debugging. Console log error plus EX. Export a get function that allows other files whereas new get routes dynamically. Parameters URL, the right path, e.g. home, action, the function that should handle requests to that path, exports that get equals URL action greater than or equal to routes get URL equals action, and then export a post function, that allows other files to register new post routes dynamically. So parameters URL, the route path, submit action, the function that should handle post requests to that path, exports.post equals URL, comma action equals to or greater than routes post URL equals action, so on and so forth. So that's what happens. So obviously it goes to like a URL, so it just goes to my URL, which is indexed, just the URL. Whereas had I press slanted, then I did index.html, it'll take me to a page called take me to a page called welcome. As you can see here, my index.html, is in full display here. So H1 welcome H1. So that's where so it's just in like full display. So yeah. So I mean that's pretty much it, man, for my code. So that's what it is, and then short, and then yeah. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Till next time, take care, Lord bless, and thank you.